I should feel way worse than I do physically. There's been injuries here and there, but I feel pretty good. From the time I was 11, when I saw WrestleMania 11, all I cared about was wrestling.
Was the goal always WWE?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you think it wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, I still hoped it would happen, but I was okay with it not happening.
You've become known as a promo guy. English isn't even your first language.
Stone Cold's advice was very crucial because I took it to heart. If I was driving anywhere, I was cutting promos to myself in the car.
How did you get Stone Cold out of retirement?
Well, I didn't do it. Vince wanted him to be on the WrestleMania in Dallas.
That's pretty incredible.
To this day, the craziest thing that I'll ever have done in my career.
I couldn't believe you headbutted Vince McMahon.
He just talked all kinds of because he wanted to make sure I was going to lay in that headbutt. Little did he know I was already planning on laying it in.
WrestleMania is officially next week. It's crazy. And we're doing a live show Thursday, April 17th at Circa Resort and Casino. And we just announced the special guest. Are you ready? Yes, R-Truth is going to be our guest for Insight Live Las Vegas. Dare I say, this is going to be the funniest show of Mania Week. Grab those tickets at cvvtix.com. That's cvvtix.com. And while you're on that website, you'll also see that we're doing a show SummerSlam weekend in New York City. You can get those tickets as well at cvvtix.com. I can't wait to see you guys there. Now, please enjoy this chat with KO.
Well, it is great to officially meet you.
Likewise.
I feel like I had met every Canadian, but apparently not yet.
I was the last one. Last man standing.
You're the last one. You don't live in Canada anymore, right?
No, I live in Orlando now.
It's slightly warmer there.
Yeah, I mean, travel is easier and stuff like that. So we moved several years ago now.
Was French your first language?
Yeah.
And at what point did you learn English?
I started watching wrestling when I was 11. So I kind of started picking it up then. My dad would watch TV in English. So I watched like some TV shows with him here and there. Like I remember Friends, I'd watch a lot with him. And then I think I'd say by the time I was maybe 14, I couldn't really speak English that well, but I understood everything. And I like to say Jim Ross basically taught me English. And then, by the time I was maybe 17, I think I was fully bilingual, something like that.
Did you understand what a slobber knocker was?
So I actually thought that slobber knocker was part of the U.S., the English language. I thought it was a normal word. And I would use it in like everyday life and when it made no sense. So a lot of my friends from the wrestling school that were English would like, that was one of the things they loved, that was I spoke English, but like Jim Ross, which is why I say Jim Ross taught me English. And it made no sense. But eventually I picked up like, oh, that's just a weird expression that he made up.
Did you have a bit of an Oklahoma accent too?
No, I don't think so. I think I had a very thick French accent for a long time that kind of dissipated over the years. It still comes out here and there, but.
And you don't really have that much of a French accent.
I think the more tired I get, the more it comes out from what I hear. Yeah.
That's a thing?
I guess. That's what I'm told. I always sound the same to me.
Are you speaking French at home?
So I speak to my parents in French, but my wife, although she does speak French, is English. And my kids, since they grew up in a English-speaking household, so we speak English. My son understands French, speaks it a little bit. My daughter's pretty clueless about French, but yeah.
I learned, of course, high school French growing up in Canada. That has helped me out zero in real life.
Yeah, I really don't know how much. So my son does take French, or was taking French in high school. And I guess it did help him a bit, but now that's done with. So, yeah.
Yeah, like in real life, I don't need to ever say, je suis tu es, il est, elle est. Like,
yeah, I mean, unless you live in Quebec or in France, you probably would never really need that.
But even, like, that's not even a real sentence, right? Like, I am, you are, like.
I mean, you just said them in English. So
that is true.
Real sentences.
That is, but I feel like my high school, even before that, however, 8 years of speaking French, I don't even know if I could order food.
Yeah, well, thankfully, if you go almost anywhere they speak French, they also speak English, so you don't have to worry about it.
So this year's 25 years in wrestling for you.
Yeah.
Does it feel like you've been doing this for well more than half your life?
Honestly, no, because I feel like I should feel way worse than I do physically for somebody who's done this for so long. And of course, there's been injuries here and there throughout the years, but I feel pretty good. I wake up in the morning and maybe I'm a little sore, my back sometimes, maybe my neck a little bit, my knees, not great, but man, like for all the stuff I've done and the style of wrestle for so long, to have a bit of knee pain, it's really not that big of a deal.
In the day-to-day, is there something that, like sitting on a plane for too long, does that start to bother you?
I think that's everyone, even people that don't do what we do. Like, you sit on a plane for 5-6 hours, your back might hurt and stuff like that. I'll get maybe numbness in my fingers and hands from like just my elbows being like this, but you just shake it off. It's just, that's a very common thing for wrestlers too. Like, you sit on the plane for too long, you'll get pins and needles. Was
the plan for you to debut on your 16th birthday?
No, that just happened to be the day the first show I was booked on was. So it worked out pretty great.
What a birthday present.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah,
also,
was really
who's letting you train before you're 16?
I started training when I was 14. In a barn, actually, back home. There was a local wrestler. Was really talented, very, really good at the basics. He taught me well. I was only with him for about a month, though, because then the barn actually collapsed on the ring while nobody was there, thankfully. So then I went about a year without wrestling school until Jacques Rougeau, the Mountie, opened his wrestling school in Montreal. I heard about it, begged my parents to bring me there to try and see if I could join his school, which I did. And then I trained with him for a while, although he was not really much part of the training. It was mostly one of the guys he had already trained in the past. His name was Eric. He's still around. So I was really trained by him, really good guy. And and then I had my first show on May 7, 2000. Yeah.
On your 16th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then was the goal when you got into wrestling, was it always, I want to be in WWE?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's all. I was watching WrestleMania 11 when I was 11 years old. My dad rented the tape. It was after, like a month after the show actually happened. And he just went to the, local video store where we could rent tapes and whatever. He was looking for a movie. We had seen everything. He's like, let's just rent this wrestling thing. I'm like, okay. I had never really I knew what it was, but I'd never really seen it. And he wasn't like an avid fan or anything. He was just, let's watch something we don't usually watch. And I was hooked pretty quick. I really got into the first match. I remember loving the British Bulldog. He was in the opener, and I thought that guy rules. And then as the night went on, all the matches I really enjoyed. And then Shawn Michaels came out. And to me, at the time I was 11 years old, but like I was so small for my age, people would think I was like 7 or 8. And to me, seeing the smallest guy on the show by far being the best one, I was like, I could do that. And from that point on, that was it. That's all I wanted to do. I told my parents, the tape ended. I told my dad, that's what I'm going to do.
Wow.
And then they cultivated my interest. I was very lucky. Like, they could have told me, oh, don't be silly or whatever, like most parents would, I guess. But nope, they went all in. They started buying all the pay-per-views for me, letting me stay up to watch Raw and, Smackdown when it later came. And they were 100% behind it from the start.
What gave you the confidence to know that you could do it? Because if this is the mid-90s, there's not a lot of Canadians there doing it.
No, I don't really know, honestly. I just kind of didn't know enough about it to know that, oh, this is a very hard thing to accomplish. To me, it was just like, I'm going to do this. I'll figure out a way. So the first step was trying to find a wrestling school, but obviously I had to grow up a little bit, right? So when I was 14, my mom's actually the one who found the wrestling school that was in the barn, because somebody at her work mentioned that he knew this guy who was a wrestler and trained wrestlers, and she happened over here, and she asked him about it. And the guy was like, so they actually have a show this weekend. It's very funny because where my mom worked was a very small village in Quebec, and every year they have the Corn Festival, which is literally a week-long celebration of corn. You just go and eat corn, and there's a bunch of shit you can do, but it's all based on corn. Anyway, so a staple of the Corn Festival was a wrestling show that they would put on, like outside in the middle of a field. So
a cornfield, of course.
Actually, it was a minor league baseball field or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we went because the guy that runs the school was wrestling there, and we went to meet him, and that was it. He told me, come to this place in a week and we'll see what happens. So that's how it all started. My mom found this place when I was 14, and that was my first time in the ring. From then on.
But there wasn't a path before that. Like,
no,
we can
really
think about
didn't
a
know,
lot
which is funny because, once I joined Jacques Rougeau's wrestling school, obviously he had the WWE connection as far as we knew because he had wrestled there. So of course, like I met him and I was like, oh, this is a big deal. Like there's a guy watching WWE TV, like, whoa. And in Quebec, the Rougeau name means a lot. It's, you know, that family, you know, is legendary for wrestling in Quebec. So it was a really big deal for me to meet him, really big deal for me to train with him. Over the years, though, I was probably at this wrestling school for 3 years. We just had different, you know, different mentalities and different values and just different points of view on life and wrestling as well. And he would run his wrestling school a certain way where he would run shows every 3-4 months, only 1 or 2 shows every 3-4 months, but he would do them in like 2,000 seat arenas. And because of his name, you'd get like 1,000 people or 1,500 people in the you know. So it was great to wrestle in front of those types of crowd, but you could only wrestle once every 3-4 months. So I wanted to wrestle. Like by that point, I kind of figured out like I got to get more experience, you know. But he wouldn't let us wrestle on smaller, you know, wrestling companies around Quebec just because he was like, I don't want you guys to get hurt. I don't want you guys to pick up bad habits from other wrestlers, this and that. But the what he would dangle is I'm your way to WWE, which you know, we didn't know any better, and we bought it. And but then about, I'd say 3 years in, I think he had some health issues that led to him not running shows. So when he said, I'm not going to be able to run shows for a while, we're like, well, you got to let us go wrestle somewhere else. And he said, okay, fine. So all the students from his wrestling school started wrestling all over Quebec. And I was booked every weekend, everywhere. And, you know, that's where I met Sami. Like I met a lot of people and I just started wrestling every weekend, multiple times a week. And it was such a blast. I loved it so much. And then about 6 months after or maybe less than that, 3 months after he started, you know, we started doing that, he pulled it back and said, look, I need you guys to stop wrestling everywhere because now WWE is coming for Raw soon. And I secured a tryout for 2 of my guys. He said, it's going to be me and the other guy, Eric, the trainer. He said, but if you want that, you have to stop wrestling everywhere else. You have to sign a 10-year contract with me as your agent that guarantees me 15% of your contract. And I couldn't care less about the money. I couldn't care less about him. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I don't want to stop wrestling anywhere else until the tryout. I have to keep wrestling. He fought me on it. And then eventually he called me. It was in November of 2003. And I was wrestling for IWS at that point in Montreal, which was like the biggest wrestling company in Montreal. And it was a lot of fun. And I just loved wrestling there so much. And he called me the day after what I thought was going to be my last show with them because like I can't wrestle anymore. So he called me and said, okay, so I don't know, he just started talking about the tryout and the Raw's coming. And I'm like, when is Raw? He's like, I don't know. They haven't announced it yet, but it's coming soon. And I'm like, but when is it? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, is it in 3 months? Is it 6 months? And he got like annoyed with me. And then I was like, something just doesn't feel right. Like, I really don't want to stop wrestling. And as soon as I said that, he's like, all right, fine, you made your decision. And he hung up on me. That was the last time I spoke to him. And from that point, I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to go do whatever I need to do anywhere. And yeah.
Even to this day?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Growing up, why was Owen Hart your guy?
So I have a brother that's 10 years older than me. And, you know, as brothers do, we'd fight a lot when we were kids, you know. And because he was 10 years older than me, he was a lot stronger than me. So he would, you know, he always won. Let's put it that way. So when I was younger, I couldn't help but have a bit of resentment towards him, which is not the case. You know, I love him. But, you know, when you're a kid, you feel differently about things. And I remember, so I watched WrestleMania 11. And I liked Bret Hart enough after WrestleMania 11. But then I started going backwards and watching the shows that were before WrestleMania 11. I rented all the tapes. And I believe it was Royal Rumble of that same year. Bret's wrestling Diesel. And in the match, he tries to tie Diesel's legs up with the camera wires. And to me, that's cheating. He's cheating. This is terrible. Why is he cheating? And then Owen comes into frame to try to fight Bret. And to me, I'm like, yeah, that's the right thing to do. trying to keep him from cheating. And he's the younger brother trying to like fight off the older brother. So I was like, Owen Hart's my guy. Like that was it, you know, it was like the dynamic between me and my older brother, and him and his older brother is what made me like him at first. And then obviously he was an incredible wrestler and very charismatic, very entertaining. So yeah, I just became a huge fan of his.
And your name is tribute to him. If you couldn't be Kevin Owens in WWE, what was your name going to be?
I don't really know. So my name is actually, so we also share the same birthday. And when Owen passed away, I remember thinking, if I ever have a son, I'm going to call him Owen. And then, you know, several years passed, obviously. And then in 2007, my wife got pregnant. And thankfully, she was on board with calling him Owen, which was even crazier because we visited an apartment that we were going to move into while she was pregnant. And the tenants that lived there previously had left some stuff behind. And on the door of what was going to be our son's bedroom was like in letters, like wooden letters that they had put on the door, was the name of the kid that was there previously. And the name was Owen.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like, she was like, that definitely has to be his name. Like, yeah, all right. So it's actually more of a tribute to my son, but my son's a tribute to Owen, you know? So it's actually Triple H who suggested I be Kevin Owens. We were going back and forth on names, and nothing really sounded right. And then one day Hunter just said, what? Because I had pitched some Owen something, and he's like, what about Kevin Owens? I'm like, yeah, I love it. So we went with it. And I remember after it kind of, I guess WWE trademarked it. So, you know, the websites found out about it and it started going online. Obviously, it's going to be Kevin Steen's name. I got to the performance center, and for some reason I forgot my key card. So I had to go through the front, and I'm waiting for somebody to open the door, and the door swings open and it's Dusty. And he's walking in front of me. He goes, Kevin Owens, huh? And I go, yeah, you like it? And he goes, nope. Who came up with it? I go, Triple H. And he goes, I love it. Yeah, he was the best, man. But yeah, so that was it from then on.
Quick timeout from this conversation. This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. This has happened to me before, so I'm sure it's happened to you as well. You sign up for a subscription, and after the free trial period ends, you're billed. And then you get billed month after month after month after month. You've still got the subscription, but you're not using it, but you're paying for it. In fact, I just found out that 85% of people have at least one subscription that goes unused each month. That is no longer the case with Rocket Money because I see all my subscriptions in one place, and then I can cancel the ones that I'm no longer using. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster by going to rocketmoney.com/CVV. That's rocketmoney.com/CVV.
Were you watching Over the Edge in '99 live?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. It was really rough.
Yeah.
The next night it was crazy too for a kid at that point. For me, I was, and you know, you could ask anyone that knew me back then, and like my dad, especially, like he said it in interviews before that he's done for WWE. From the time I was 11, when I saw WrestleMania 11 to, I mean, from the rest of my life, all I cared about was wrestling. I stopped playing other sports when I discovered wrestling. I couldn't care less about anything else. That's all I did 24/7. That's it. That was it. I never got in trouble when I was a kid because I couldn't get in trouble. I was at home watching wrestling. Like my parents knew where I was all the time. I was watching wrestling. That's all I did. So to me, all these wrestlers were the most important people in my life. They were like my friends. And I remember the night after on Raw when they're celebrating Owen's life and everybody's talking about how a great guy he was and everything. And they're all just, you know, pouring their hearts out. It was so, I mean, it felt like I lost a friend, you know, and I think a lot of people probably felt that way. And the same thing, you know, when Eddie Guerrero passed and all that stuff, like you watch these guys for so long, you know, you just become so attached to them. And I just can't imagine and you know, I've discussed this with people that knew him. I've talked about Owen with people that knew him and met him. And yeah, he just seems like a very, very special person. And I just can't imagine how hard it was to lose him that way for all those guys and all those people, and obviously his family as well. I just can't even imagine, you know?
If it was your goal to get to WWE and it took as long as it did you think there was a point where it wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I still hoped it would happen, but I think I was okay with it not happening at one point, because by 2013, I was making a pretty good living on the indies. I didn't need a day job anymore. I was able to just wrestle. So I'd be home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd leave Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, then come back. I was selling enough merch and getting enough money from the shows I was doing to, at the time, live pretty comfortably for the life that we had. You know, it was me, my wife, and my son. And yeah, by that point, I remember actually one specific afternoon in 2013 where my son was at, I think he was at kindergarten or whatever. Like we would pick him up in the afternoon, but me and my wife went to the dog park with our dog to like 1 p.m. on a Wednesday or something. And I'm throwing the ball around and watching my dog run around. And I remember thinking, it was a beautiful day. And I remember thinking, man, I get to do this on a Wednesday at 1 p.m. I don't have to be, you know, I worked in a warehouse. I've worked in jobs that I didn't like, that I just had to do, you know? And I remember feeling so grateful and thankful. And I think I even sent out a tweet right then and there, thanking like everyone that supports independent wrestling for allowing me to literally be at the dog park with my dog at 1 p.m., you know? So things were pretty good. And I had accepted that it probably wasn't going to happen. And I was really okay with it until it became a possibility. Like, I remember Super Dragon messaged me saying William Regal's coming to BOLA, Battle of Los Angeles. And from that, as soon as he said that, I was like everything shifted. I'm like, oh, that's it. So, yeah, that it kind of like lit a fire back, you know, like I remember Sami signing his contract, and that was like bittersweet because I was so happy for him, and he signed it in front of me. We're in the car together. And he signed it in front of me, and I was really happy for him, but it was bittersweet. And at the time, I was still under contract with Ring of Honor. So even if WWE had expressed any interest, which they hadn't, I couldn't have done anything about it, you know? I had 2 years left. So, but in those 2 years, I really accepted that, it's probably not going to happen, and it's fine. And then I had started talking to Ring of Honor about a new contract coming up. But then that's when, Regal was going to be at BOLA. So I'm like, maybe this is my chance, you know? So I had the match with Johnny Gargano at Battle of Los Angeles. We rocked the house. We came back. Regal told us we had a really great match, congratulated us, gave us a bit of advice, which was really, really great to see. Him acknowledge that it was the first time I saw an old school wrestler acknowledge that while this may not be his style or the way he would do things, for the crowd that we were in front of, that was perfect because they ate up everything. Everything. He's like, so who am I to come here and tell you guys that you did it wrong? You didn't. You did it absolutely right. I had seen other guys, you know, that had been in WWE and stuff like that veterans that could be a positive influence on wrestlers, just tear us down. Like I remember one came to a Ring of Honor show and tore up the main event that was a fatal 4-way and just told all the guys how stupid they were and you shouldn't have done that. Why'd you do this like this? Why did you do that? Should have been the finish. The crowd ate up everything. To a degree, I will add that that particular guy had never had a crowd in his life. I watched his matches. He never had a crowd going like those guys did. So it was so refreshing to see William Regal have that, that outlook. And then I remember he left and I was like, well, if it leads to something great, but if not, just the kind words he had for me, I was like, this is just a career highlight for me. And then like a week later, Sarah Del Rey, who was a trainer at WWE at that time, messaged me saying, would you have interest in coming in for a tryout? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So then it actually took quite a while to get it. This was probably in September or October of 2013. And I didn't get my tryout until March of 2014 because I was still with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was agreed to let me go to the tryout, but I couldn't do it in December like the WWE wanted me to. I had to wait a little longer. So I did it in March. And yeah.
WWE posted a video on their YouTube channel saying this is the promo that got Kevin Steen hired.
Yeah.
Is that actually, was that it?
Yeah. So the tryouts are hard. They're very hard. They're very physically demanding. They're basically like blow up drills nonstop. And it's really not about trying to see if you're in amazing shape, because they can mold you into shape at the Performance Center. It's really to see the heart you have and the attitude you have. And, I was at this tryout, and there were so many guys that were jacked to the gills that you'd think like, oh, these guys are amazing athletes for sure. These guys are as good as signed. And they fell like flies left and right. But me and Willie Mack were probably the guys that were in the least, athletic shape there. We weren't, beating records of speed in these drills, but we were doing them and we weren't stopping. So we showed, the heart that they were looking for and the attitude they were looking for, I think.
And you weren't willing to give up.
No. And I actually had to, at one point, not give up, but like one of the drills on the second day, from sheer exhaustion is very hard. You're like jumping over like a heavy bag to do drop downs. And I landed like my hand crooked and I thought I broke my wrist. So I had to stop that particular drill. And I was really upset because in my head, I'm like, oh shit, like that's going to hurt me. Like, and then, right after it happened is when they sent us back to the gym to like get a break. And then, Matt Bloom, who at the time was not the head trainer of the PC, was just one of the trainers, said, come here. So I went, and it was just me and Canyon Seaman, and all the trainers were lined up, and they were like, cut a promo. So I cut that promo. And then they were like, okay, thanks. And then I walked away.
So they didn't tell you to prepare a promo?
No.
That was just off the top of your head?
I mean, I had prepared one because I knew I was going to have to.
Yeah.
So I knew what I was, like, I knew the basis of what I was going to say, but I was ready. But they just dropped it on us. Like, the promos were supposed to be the next day, but they just asked me to do it right there.
Who was it in your career early on that told you, like, you got to work on your mic work?
Stone Cold, actually. So I knew, that the guys that I cared for the most in wrestling were always the guys that could talk. So I knew it was important. I made it a point throughout my career to have engaging and interesting promos. But the one that really drove the point home was in 2005. And, if people watch my work before then, they'll see that I was already, very, vocal. And even when I'd wrestle, sometimes it's not even about a promo. In the middle of my matches, I'd be doing like running commentary and stuff. And I think that became a good part of like why I was appealing on the indies. But in 2005, me and Sami were on our way to a PWG show. And we were connecting in, I want to say Dallas. And as we're walking to our gate, I think Sami's like, well, I'm going to sit down here. And he sits there, we're waiting. And I'm walking to go get some water. And I see Stone Cold standing on the corner. So I go back to Sami and I go, I've told this story before. I was like, hey, come on. I didn't want to alert everyone. I was like, come on. He's like, what? We're going to go see Stone Cold. He's like, what? And he stands up and follows me and goes, who are we going to fight? And I go, what are you talking about? He's like, you want to go fight somebody? I'm like, no, we're going to go see Stone Cold. He's, huh? And then he looks and goes, that's not, oh shit, it is. So we approached him, as subtly as we could. And he was cool. He was so cool. We told him we're independent professional wrestlers on our way to a show in LA. And he started asking us about, what we were doing, how it's going, the state of independent wrestling and stuff like that. So we talked for maybe 10 minutes. It was great. It was just so great. We took a couple pictures that are out there now. There's a picture of me and Steve from that day. And then they called First Class, which obviously he was on and we were not. There's a funny story after that, actually. So they called First Class. So he's like, all right, guys, I'll see you on the plane. But then I went, hey, we have to ask, just if you have one piece of advice, what is it? And he goes, just never stop running your mouth. Just run your mouth. And then he looked at Sami and goes, that plancha shit will kill you, but just run your mouth. And then he left. And I was like, that's it. And then I started doing just that. And then funny enough, we were like in 38 like all the way in the back, and we could see from afar like his bald head in the front. So we're like, we should do something cool for him. Like, oh yeah, let's buy him a beer. And then we're like, we asked the flight attendant, hey, can we buy a beer for the guy in row 3? And she goes, what do you mean buy it? What? She goes, he's in first class. It's free. Oh, okay. But yeah, so that's it. That was it. I did, and then I took that to heart, man. I just ran my mouth a lot, sometimes too much. Probably definitely said stuff I shouldn't have said, but it was all in the guise of trying to, I don't know, man. I just needed people to care. Like as small or as big as the matches might be, I approached every match with just whoever sees it, it needs to stand out and they need to remember it. And that's really what I approach everything I do and always done in wrestling. I remember like a few months ago, some interview that AJ did where he talked about how wrestling is more about moments than matches. And people remember
that was on my show.
Years.
Yeah.
So I've actually been saying this, and I'm not saying he took it from me, but I've been saying this stuff for 15 years. Matches, people will remember matches, but they'll remember those matches because of specific moments in the matches. And they'll remember moments that aren't in matches because the moments are memorable. Mm-hmm. So I really do think AJ's dead on. It's about creating special moments, whether it's in a match or outside of a match, leading to a match, whatever. So yeah, that's it. I just kind of tried to make every time I'm in the ring a moment people will remember.
It's amazing that you've become known as a promo guy when English isn't even your first language.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that was really the whole Stone Cold's advice was very crucial in that, because I really just took it to heart, started talking all the time. But also, man, like as corny as it might sound, you'll hear wrestlers give advice to, up and coming wrestlers like, oh, practice your promos in the mirror and stuff like that. I mean, if I was driving anywhere in a car, going anywhere, I was cutting promos to myself in the car about anything, like wrestling wise, like I'd pretend I have a match with The Miz in 2 weeks, and stuff like that. Or if I'm in an independent match, like I have an independent show coming up, I'm cutting promos about that guy and stuff like that. And I really did that. And it was just not, I wasn't forcing myself to do it to practice. It was literally just, this is what my brain does, So, yeah, I think all that was pretty crucial in getting me there.
But you add such a level of realism. Like when you're mad at someone, It actually seems like you're mad. Like when you feuded with Sami, it's like, wait, are they not friends anymore? Mm.
Well, that's very easy because I've known him for so long. So it's very easy to access the anger when it comes to Sami. Because, man, if people were around him for that long, they'd all understand.
So you put a little extra in those power bombs?
No, I give them as hard as I ever have. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, there is something to it. And like, I don't like tooting my own horn or anything like that. But I will say that some guys in what we do manage to have a more genuine, stronger connection with the audience than others. And some just have it. And I think I, for some reason, fall into that category. But, I really wouldn't really be able to tell you why. I think probably a lot of it is I'm just a fan. And people will, like I've heard people trying to knock me with this, like, he looks like a fan. Like, yeah, I am a fan, dude. I just managed to fool everybody into thinking that I could do this, and now I get to do it. So I think that helps, I kind of just attack, like, the moments I'm trying to create or the matches I have, I try to do them so that if I'm watching them, will I like it? Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that probably helps in the my genuine, the genuine connection I have with the fans is because I am one.
This episode is brought to you by Blue Chew. Does it work? Well, find out for yourself. They're making it so easy. Your first month is free when you use the code CVV at BlueChew.com. Just sign up there at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part is this is all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. They say there's nothing sexier than confidence. Well, Blue Chew gives you the confidence where it really counts. Make life easier by getting harder. and discover your options at BlueChew.com. Like I said, they've got a special deal going on right now for anybody watching this. Try your first month of Blue Chew for free with the code CVV. You just have to pay $5 for shipping. That's code CVV. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and all of the important safety information. And a big thank you to Blue Chew for sponsoring the show.
People are trying to point at you and say he doesn't look like a wrestler, he looks like a fan.
Mm-hmm.
You've kind of broken the mold. Like,
yeah, I mean, I still get it all the time, but it's the people that feel like that's a knock or an insult are just, it's very stupid. You know, I'm so comfortable with how I look. I always have been, which is probably what's driven so many people crazy. You know, because my weight has fluctuated over the years for sure. There were times where I was much heavier than I am now. And, you know, there are reasons for that. And we'll say, well, you weren't working out enough. You were eating like shit. Yeah. That's true, but it never hindered my work. So you might have not liked looking at me the way I looked at that point, but I was having killer matches either way. I was able to talk better than most people on the roster, and that never changed. So now I've lost weight because honestly, I haven't done anything. This is the funny part. I haven't done anything to lose weight. I didn't set out and go, I'm going to lose weight. I really didn't. Just my weight fluctuates a lot. I might be a little more active in my everyday life than I was for a while, you know, whatever it may be. Or I don't know, my metabolism, I really have no idea. But yeah, right now I've shed some pounds. I might put more on, I really don't know. But I've never made a conscious choice to be heavier or be, you know, lighter or look better. And man, that really drives a lot of people crazy. But
nobody can question your athleticism. Nobody can question that you have strength. And I think that people want to look at someone like you and go, well, he's clearly not athletic. It's like, well, you can't question that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's just, I don't know. I mean, it's like everyone. There'll be fans that will look at guys that are in incredible shape and still find something wrong, you know? So yeah, some people are just born to discredit other people because of their own shortcomings, I guess. As stupid as it sounds, you know, like, oh, they're just jealous. There probably is something to that, to a level. Even if the people that are, you know, if you spend most of your time trying to tear other people down, even, you know, subconsciously, there's kind of something with you that's the problem.
It says more about that person,
I would say so,
than it does about you.
Yeah, and like the thing that I can't stand, we're going on a tangent about just everyday life, but it's very applicable to wrestling as well, and even wrestling promos, I'd say. I don't like when people will try to put something over or give, you know, express something like, this guy is so good. But they'll say, this guy is so much better than that guy. That I hate. I can't stand that. Why tear someone down to try to express how good somebody else is? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Isn't that the whole thing in wrestling, that you're trying to build up the other guy? Yeah,
I think there's great value to that basic piece of advice, which, you know, I've heard for a long time. I couldn't tell you who first said it, but they're very right. Is if you tear down your opponent, then you beat a loser. If you build them up, you beat a winner. But at the same time, I can see the appeal of, because even right now I'm saying, like, I don't find anything more unlikable than someone who tears someone else down to bring themselves back up. So, well, if you're trying to be a heel, isn't that what you want to do? So, you know, there's like, and I've applied like stuff that I see in everyday life that I can't stand. I've tried to apply that to my heel character because, man, I really hate when people do that. So I'll do it.
Like what?
Well, when I was doing the Face of America that Chelsea stole her gimmick from.
And it's so ironic that it's a Canadian that's the face of America.
I would just try to act like with a smugness in my promos that I would see certain people in charge of the United States the way they had it. And I'm like, man, if I can kind of capture that, it's so incredibly unlikable. And I tried. I don't know if I really did. And eventually that gimmick died quite quickly because Jinder Mahal, Rusev, we can't have another foreign anti-America heel. It's over. What do I do? Just go back to being KO. All right. That simple. So yeah.
How did you get Stone Cold out of retirement?
Well, I didn't do it.
I feel like you had played a role in this.
I didn't. I really didn't. I don't know the exact story and how it all unfolded. I will say this part. A couple of years before this happened, I was doing the pop-up powerbomb as my finishing move, and everyone was doing powerbombs. I would see a lot of guys doing powerbombs. I'm like, man, everybody's kind of doing powerbombs right now. I think I need another finishing move. And I'm like, what could I do? And I'm like, well, the greatest finishing move of all time to me is the Stone Cold Stunner. And nobody does it. Some people will do it here and there. I actually had done it once against Roman in Texas, and I only did it because we were in Texas. But it was just a one-time thing. But then when I was trying to figure out I need a finishing move, I'm like, man, Stone Cold Stunner is it. But before I could do that, I had to ask Steve for permission. I could not do it. I could not, like I said, I'd used it on the Indies once. Actually, I did his podcast on the Indies. Like while I was on the Indies, I happened to do his podcast. So 2 days later at a Ring of Honor show, I used the stunner just because I'd just done his podcast. So whatever, it was kind of topical. And then I used it against Roman once. But I'm like, if I'm going to use it on a regular basis as a finishing move, I have to make sure he's okay with it. So I happened to run into him at a show in Baltimore that he was at for Raw. So I went in, we talked, and it was funny because, like I said, I saw him in 2005. Then for years, didn't see him at all. And then in 2012, I was in Ring of Honor. I was at the top of Ring of Honor. I was probably the top guy on the Indies at that point. And I was listening to Stone Cold's podcast all the time. And at the end of his podcast, he'd always say, if you have any questions, send it to like questions@BSR, whatever his website was. So I said, I'm going to send him an email thanking him for the advice he gave me all those years ago. And maybe he'll answer. But in my head, I'm like, maybe he'll even have me on his podcast. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I emailed him in 2005 at the airport. You gave me great advice, and my career's flourished since. Thank you. And he wrote back, he's like, I actually do. I remember that. So you want me on my podcast? I'm like, yeah. So he goes, okay, I have Jim Cornette as my guest on this podcast. And, I'll do an hour with Jim. And then your part will be after, like, we'll do 10 minutes with you. I'm like, great. And then he calls me and goes, hey, I don't know what happened, but Cornette's not answering. So let's just do the whole podcast together. I was like, yes, finally Jim Cornette does something good for me. So yeah, we did the whole podcast, talked for like an hour. And when it came out the next day, it was a huge deal because he hadn't really done a podcast with an independent guy at that point. I think maybe Colt had done his podcast by that point, but that was it. So it was a huge deal for me, and the fans were really excited, and they listened to the conversation. And I think that really helped. At the end of the podcast, he goes, WWE should take a look at this guy. And it wasn't long after. I'd already had the communication with them, but I think that helped in like making it more serious and making more of a priority almost. And then years later, here we are running into each other at WWE, and I had to tell him just how crucial he was in helping me get there. So anyway, and then I asked him, like, I want to do the Stone Cold Stunner as my finisher, and I just want to make sure you're okay with it. And he said, yeah, I actually can't believe nobody's asked me already yet. So yeah, please go ahead. So I was really pumped. And then I went to Vince and asked him if I could, and he said no. He's like, no, you can't do that. Okay. Then years went by, and I got hurt. I went away for a bit, and I came back as a babyface. And my first match back was a tag team match against Eric Rowan and Bryan, Daniel Bryan, who was doing the protecting the earth, yeah. And I had to go over. I had to beat Bryan that night, and they're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Stone Cold Stunner," and they said, "Okay." I'm like, all right. And that was it. So from then on, Stunner became my finish. And so I would have to admit, to tie in back to how he came back. When I asked him to use the Stone Cold Stunner, yes, I wanted a new finishing move. And yes, I think it's the greatest finish of all time. But there was a big part of me who thought, in the unlikely event, which won't happen, but if he ever were to come back for a match, it's going to be against the guy who's doing his finishing. And that's exactly what happened. So I don't think that played a part in it. I think Vince wanted him to be on the WrestleMania in Dallas, and he wasn't sure in what capacity. And I'm not sure how. I think they talked. He said no at first, from what I understand. He said no. And then they went back to him, and he's like, okay, who would it be with? And I think that's when they said me, which I think he was good with. And then it somehow was it going to be a talking segment? Was it going to be a match? Was it going to be a stunner? What is it going to be? That literally up until the day of the show, we had no idea. Me and Steve had talked. I would talk to Steve, ask him, what are we going to do? And he'd go, I don't know, depends on Vince. So I'd talk to Vince. And Vince would go, I don't know, depends on Steve. And I'm like, can't you guys talk to each other, for fuck's sake? But yeah, up until that day, we really didn't know for sure what it was going to be. And turned out to be what it was. And it was pretty great.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I really, I'm very lucky to have been a part of it. It's, to this day, the craziest thing that I'll ever have done in my career. And I don't think anything will top it, just because of how, like, even me and Sami winning the tag titles at WrestleMania was unbelievable in the main event. Which is great now, because, WrestleMania main event night one, it's like, it's always been, there's a lot of people that argue like it's not really the main event.
Yeah.
But now that Punk's in it this year, everyone says it is the main event, because you don't want to take that away from them. So now it finally validates that, yeah, we've main evented WrestleMania.
We've got two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, winning the titles at WrestleMania together was insane, like crazy. Like, we were talking about this stuff when, like, our dream would be, hey, let's win the Ring of Honor tag titles. Like, we were talking about this in like 2004. And then we never even really talked about winning the WWE tag titles, because we're not going to be in WWE, are we? No, we are. And then we started talking, man, we got to team and win the tag titles. And then we teamed for a little bit in 2018, but then we went our separate ways. So we're like, we didn't even win the tag titles. And we kind of thought, well, I guess that's it. But then the story started to shift with him and the Usos and stuff. And anyway, all the pieces fell into place, and we won the tag titles at WrestleMania. As incredible and kind of unlikely as that moment was, it still wasn't as unlikely as Stone Cold coming back 19 years later for a match. So to this day, that match with Steve will always be, and like I said, I don't think anything will top it, the craziest night of my career.
He's said quite a few times that he was stiffing you in that match.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like he was?
Yeah. Yeah. He actually, the night of the match, after, when I got back to my hotel, my earlobe was swollen like this big. And I went, because from his punches, and I went, and it just splattered against the mirror. Oh yeah. Yeah, he was, and he kept saying, like, you didn't give me any receipts. Like, what am I gonna do? Slap the shit out of Stone Cold. But honestly, in that moment too, like, I felt the punches, but there weren't any worse than anything I felt before, So but to him, that shows how much of a pro he is. Like, Brett has always prided himself on how he's never hurt anyone. You could barely feel him in the ring and stuff. And that's amazing. And I think Steve was the same way, So he prided himself on not killing people. And that night he knew he was killing me. But to me, it was, it's not any worse than other guys. So, yeah.
What kind of stunner sell do you like the best? Because we've seen just a litany of ways to take the stunner.
Some guys just go overboard, which I think ends up making the stunner itself look terrible. Like, I've seen guys do like standing moonsaults on it, and I find that so dumb. Well, I've had to tell a guy, do not standing moonsault on my stunner, please. You did it the other week, and it's stupid. But, Scott Hall had this amazing sell that people still remember, and now Austin Theory it's so over the top, but somehow he nails it. The timing is perfect. The way he does it is perfect. So I love those kinds of sell, but I like a good just like dropping, and you just kind of see the guy's head go like,
like a Kurt Angle sell.
Yeah,
it's
or
like
Shane actually. I think Shane always took a really good stunner. And one of the most underrated stunners, I think, was Jerry Lawler. When Steve, I don't know if it was the only time he hit it on him, but Steve's reading like a paper, is in 97, I believe, that, maybe Vince sent him or whatever. And like Jerry's trying to read over his shoulder, and Steve just stuns him. And Man, Jerry, like, I don't know. It just, it's really good. Yeah.
I always loved the Santino cell. He would still.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of different ones. I like I said, I don't like the ones that are more about trying to make people go, whoa, did you see how he sold it? Than trying to make the move look good. And I think Theory actually has a perfect, everyone goes, holy shit, did you see that? But it makes it, he still manages to make the move look good.
He goes,
not just his reaction.
Goes like 14 feet in the air.
He's got some very impressive vertical leaps.
When you talk about wrestling being about moments, I couldn't believe watching that segment where you headbutted Vince McMahon, because there's nothing fake about that. What was the setup to that moment?
He just talked all kinds of shit. Like, he's shaking my hand and just saying, I don't remember what he said, but it's definitely he was really trying to provoke me because he wanted to make sure I was going to lay in that headbutt. Little did he know I was already planning on laying it in, because I had worked for him for 2 years at that point. I wasn't going to miss that chance, So I did. And yeah, it was a pretty insane moment. When he came up with the blood and everything, I was like, whoa, here we go. But my favorite part of that whole thing was after. It's a moment that was only seen, I don't think it was on TV, maybe only caught by digital. As I'm, everybody's standing to Vince, I'm walking to the back and I turn around to look at the ring. I'm just looking at the ring and I hear kind of like a rumble in the crowd. And I go to turn. And as I turn, Stephanie's right there in my face. And she's looking at me. She looks furious. And she just looks at me and goes, get the fuck to the back. And I go, okay. Turned around and I left. I really like that. I really like Stephanie a lot. She's been such a great, she's been so supportive of not just me, but everybody. Like, when Hunter was running NXT and we all got there at the same time, like a lot of us, my crop of NXT guys, me, Sammy, Finn, Bailey, Becky, that crew, Charlotte, Stephanie would be at the NXT shows quite a bit, and she was just always so supportive and so just proud of us. And yeah, it was great. It was like that whole generation of NXT, man, was so special, not just because of the talent there, but the support we had from all the trainers to, Dusty, Hunter, and Stephanie. They really felt like we were, to a degree, kind of their kids, and they were trying to get us out into the world. And yeah, that was really special to be around that kind of energy. And yeah. Was
the plan to bust him open? Or was it just a byproduct of headbutting him really hard?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I didn't expect it. So I don't know if he did.
What a moment.
Yeah.
You think we might see a match with you and Matthew McConaughey?
I would love that. I really would. So a couple of years ago, he came to a show and I didn't get to meet him. And he's actually my favorite actor. So I really wanted to meet him. But when I saw the line of people waiting to meet him, I was like, okay, I'm not going to crowd this guy any more than he already is being crowded. People trying to take pictures with him for their Instagram. I just want to tell him hey, Frailty is an amazing movie.
Oh, is that your go-to McConaughey film?
Yeah, it's the first movie I saw him in. I was like, that guy rules. Anyway, so didn't get to talk to him or nothing. But I heard at that point that he really loved wrestling a lot. And that he might even be interested in doing something in wrestling one day, like a match. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, I don't know. He said maybe we'll have a match one day. I'm like, oh man, I want to wrestle him. So then I did an interview after WrestleMania. I think it was the one with Steve. The week after I did Corey Graves' podcast, and he asked me next year's WrestleMania, who would you like to wrestle? And I threw out Matthew McConaughey. So I'm like, why not? So since then I've said it in a few interviews here and there. But then obviously back in January, they pulled me aside. They're like, hey, Matthew McConaughey's coming to the show. Do you want to do something with him? I'm like, yeah, I do. They're like, okay. And then they were kind of going back and forth what we could do. And in the end, they're like, well, we're not really going to do anything, but hey, if you want to talk shit to him, he'll be in the front row. So I'm like, okay.
So he didn't even know it was going to happen?
No. Yeah. And then he got into it and it was great. It was a good time, man. It was fun. He totally, he went for it and, cool.
Yeah, you can tell he's a wrestling fan.
Yeah, big time.
The way he was like, come on.
Yeah. It was cool, man. And yeah, if he ever wants to step in the ring, I'm happy to make sure he never does it again after.
These t-shirts you've been wearing over the last few months, where do you come up with these ridiculous ideas?
Well, I buy a lot of my friends' t-shirts just because I like to support, and I genuinely like the t-shirts, and I don't, I'm not a fancy dresser, if anybody would believe that. You know, a pair of Zubaz shorts and a wrestling t-shirt is pretty much...
Or a band t-shirt like today.
Yeah, this is it.
GNR.
You know, yeah, pretty much the only band. But so I'll buy a lot of t-shirts. I have a lot of wrestling t-shirts, current and past. And as it turns out, the nature of our industry makes it so that sometimes my friends become my enemies. And then I have all these nice shirts to wear. Or in the instance of the last few months, I end up deciding to get a shirt from someone's prior gimmick that he really didn't like. But where am I going to get a shirt like that? And it has to be a WWE licensed shirt. I just can't wear any shirt. So I scour the internet to try to find a genuine WWE approved Stardust t-shirt. And turns out Walmart.com.
What?
In a box in some warehouse that someone probably had to like go up 10 levels of the scaffolding to try to pull it and blow up the dust. Like, yeah, I found that. I found a couple other ones that I will not get to wear, I don't think. But like legacy t-shirts, the legacy with Randy, Cody, and Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
So I have a few of those that will never see the light of day. They're just sitting in my closet. And then like, yeah, so many other shirts of just all kinds of people.
Or just the parodies of the classic shirts.
Yeah. I mean, those were just really, they're just right there. You know, the son of a security systems technician. Was a little tribute to my dad too.
Even saying that out loud is so funny.
Yeah. And that one, well, even the Cody sucks eggs one. What was cool about it is after I wore it, Nick Khan was texting me, goes, those shirts are amazing. And like a week, not a week, like an hour later, it's like, they're up for sale now. When I made them, I'm like, I'm not looking to sell these. I'm just doing it to pop myself.
Yeah.
But people responded to them so much, you know? So it's cool. It's like, it's nice. It's just like a little Easter egg for me, you know?
Well, and it's also nice to like being able to say to the fans, like, hey, you're in on this too.
Yeah, I've said this before, man. Our fans are very smart. People pay attention. People remember stuff. And even the ones that don't get it, because, you know, not every, like, 12-year-old kid's not going to understand the security systems technician thing, but maybe his dad will get it and then tell him. And then the kid's, oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones actually was the Naomi t-shirt. Because Jimmy didn't see it before the match. He only saw it once I was walking out. So that was pretty cool. And it's funny because I didn't have a Naomi t-shirt. I had to make it because, you know, I wear whatever XL. And the only shirts they had of Naomi was like medium, which is or maybe even small, the shirt that she wears. So like, well, all we have is a small. So I had Sarat cut her logo off her t-shirt and then sew it onto one of the Kevin Owens shirt just so I could wear it for the match. But yeah, it was cool. I love Naomi too, so I'm glad I was able to support. She didn't seem to really be happy about it on Twitter after, but it's okay.
We're in such a different era of wrestling right now. And it felt like you were really acknowledging that when you turned on Cody at Bad Blood and there were no WWE cameras to capture it.
Yeah.
And it's basically saying like, oh, we're doing it. And I know that spot in Atlanta where you did it at the arena. There was like a fan bridge that took you in and out of the arena. It's like you knew if you guys had this thing happening there, a bunch of people would capture it and the story would write itself. That has a lot of faith in knowing that this is the era that we're in right now. How'd you know it would work?
It wasn't me. That was Triple H. That was his idea. He felt confident in doing it that way. I was not sure. I'm like, I don't know, man. Is there even going to be enough people there? It turns out he was completely right. There was. And yeah, it's just a different way of telling the stories. And he's got a different mentality than Vince had. And it's really interesting. And people really responded to it. And the same thing with Randy. The way I ended up ultimately turning on Randy was, it was on TV, but it was done differently. It wasn't, it was something that was released later as well. And you just kind of caught the tail end of it on TV, but then they did the security footage after. And yeah, it's just a way he wants to tell stories differently, and he's willing to, try stuff out and see what sticks. And I think that makes the show way more interesting. It doesn't mean it's always going to work. Like there might be sometimes that it doesn't land, but we're trying different things and new things. And I think that's so important in wrestling. Like when it gets monotonous and repetitive, like it's just, no matter how good the matches are and the promos are, if you feel like you've seen it before, and it's okay to have seen it before once, like if you see a rematch once or twice, great. But man, there were times over, I'd say in 2008, 2009, I was an avid fan. I would never miss any WWE shows, even when I was an independent wrestler traveling the world. But I started paying a lot less attention in 08, 09 because I felt like this is literally the same thing every single week. And there were times where, even when I was here, like 2016, 2017, I felt like we just did this 2 weeks ago. And now we're doing it again. And you know what I mean? And to me, when it gets like that, it's just not the way we need to do things. I think we need different things. There's new things. We need to try stuff, and it has to feel unpredictable and exciting,
Less is more, and we hear that so often in wrestling. And I feel like that's what made your pile drivers so effective, is we hadn't seen them in so long.
Yeah.
What did the approval process look like to bring the pile driver back?
Well, the package pile driver was something I've asked many times before, and it was always no, not right now, not today, doesn't work, can't do it. Until eventually it was, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then I didn't feel like hitting it on Randy was the best decision. I thought a normal pile driver was enough for Randy because Randy is gigantic. And, I didn't think I could, quite frankly, I didn't think I could get him up for the package pile driver because of the way his body needs to be. He's just too massive. But yeah, and then Cody at Saturday night's main event was the right time to do it. It was cool. I waited a long time to get to do that in WWE. And the funny part is, I knew Penta was coming. Penta was doing the package pile driver.
Yeah.
And I was like, he better not get to do it before me because I will lose my shit. But it all worked out.
I started collecting trading cards recently, and the inscriptions you had on these cards they're special.
Yeah.
Let me read
Sure.
a few of these. And maybe you can tell me the story behind them.
Sure.
I ate soup once.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I did. I did more than once, but that is a true statement. So, they make us sign these cards, and there's a lot of them to sign. So sometimes we're sitting there for 20 minutes signing them all. And I get bored very easily. And to me, an autograph is very boring. Like, it's just a scribble of somebody that looks kind of like his name, but not really. So I like to just give a little something more to make it more interesting. If it was up to me, I'd do it on all of them. But they're like, you can't do it on all of them.
Were you told
it takes too long.
You can only do it on so many?
No, they never tell me what to do. They just told me you can't do it on all of them. We'll be sitting here all day. But I can do as many as I want or as little as I want. I do. When I feel like it, I do it. There's so many more, like from that batch that people started finding. There's at least 10, 15 more that people still haven't found, I think, because they haven't ended up online.
So how many in total do you think you did?
I probably signed like 40 or 50 of them, like weird stuff on them.
The bloodline aren't really related.
They're not. They're not. Not all of them. Some of them are, but they're not. Some of them are just like our dads were tag team partners. Yeah, that doesn't mean you're related. Anyway,
I like several Shakira songs.
I do. Great artist.
Which ones?
Hips Don't Lie is a classic. Underneath Your Clothes, I believe is the name of it. It's very nice.
What about Whenever, Wherever?
Yeah, of course. I like a lot of them. Some of them I don't even know the names of them. She-Wolf.
Oh yeah, sure.
That one rules.
Which inscription are you hoping people will find soon? Like
there's one that I wrote that I don't think anybody has found yet. It says, "Don't follow us at the airport." And that one's like that's that one that people should take that to heart.
That feels personal.
Yeah, we love our fans, we really do. And what I do now at airports is I come and when they're all waiting for their autographs, I just go, I don't sign at the airport, but I'll gladly take a picture with you. And when I say that, 20 of them turn around and,
What?
So because they're not there to be fans.
Because they're going to sell it on eBay?
Yeah, which I don't really have a problem with. But I just got to the airport. I'm either tired, I got to go to work. So and sometimes, man, like when we get to an airport and it's 5 or 6 people, okay. But nowadays, we get there, man. 40, 50 people. Sometimes it feels like you're like they get around. You can't move. It's like it's overwhelming for me. And I know, like, I've seen it done, like, to the girls. And some girls have told me, like, it gets almost scary. And I know nobody that comes to the airport is setting out to do that. They just want an autograph, whether they're going to sell it or not, whatever. They're not trying to crowd somebody and make them feel like, hey, this is too much. But when there's 40 of you, that's what happens. So what I suggest is just don't come to the airport.
They're like tracking your flights, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, there's some that are actually. So just recently, we landed from in Newark Airport from the charter that took us back home after the Europe shows. And there's like 11 or 12 of us. The flight was delayed. We landed late. 11 or 12 of us are trying to make our connection, and we're all going to be really tight. So we're all running, we get to right where we have to cross back into security to get to our flights. And all of us are like trying to make it within 15 minutes. And there's 10 people trying to get us to sign. And I had to say, now is not the time. Get away from us. We don't have time. We're all rushing for our flights. And I think they got the message, thankfully. But there's just times too where we just can't do it. Or like some of them have started buying tickets to get across security. So they meet us at our gate.
Oh my gosh.
And those guys, to me, are like rotten. Like, if you do that, you're an asshole. And I told that to one of the guys that did it recently. As I was walking by him, he was at our gate and he's trying to get me a sign. I go, nope. He goes, well, Stone Cold doesn't have a problem signing. I told him, okay, good for you. And he's like trying to talk shit because he's at an airport.
Yeah.
So he can do it. He knows nothing's going to happen to him. He would never do that in the street. You know what I mean? But like, that just says a lot about the kind of people I remember seeing a video of Ray being ambushed in between flights, past security. He's trying to catch his flight. And I think he told them, like, I don't have time to do this. And then they tried to like put it online and say like Ray was rude or whatever. Like, this is just insane.
Well, this is why you have autograph signings.
Yeah. But again, like, man.
Like, you could meet you guys at WWE World or something like that.
Or, even outside of the shows, like when people come to the shows and they wait, where we're parked sometimes, some guys will be happy to go talk to them and sign. And I try to do that. And some guys don't. And that's fine. But yeah, the airport is literally just never the place. We never like it. I guarantee it. Some guys might not mind it. Other guys really don't like it. But I mean what I say. When I go there, I'll happily take a picture with you. But it says a lot when I say that. 5, 6 of them, maybe more, depending on how many are just, and they turn around like, okay.
Well, I feel like you just made the value of that one trading card with that inscription on it. That's the most expensive card.
There's another one that because sometimes they'll come up with signature, like something I already signed and go, did you sign this? Is that yours? And I look at it and I go, I mean, most likely it is, but it's just a scribble. It doesn't seem, it's not far-fetched. Someone just recreated it. So I wrote on the card, I signed it, and I wrote, if you ask me if I signed this, I'll say no. So.
I've been fascinated watching the tattoos on your arms grow since you debuted in WWE.
Yeah.
Because it was 0, right? And then it was the 1. It was 1 on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Just 1.
There's 2. There was this one and the bull when I started.
And now you have.
And I had a K over here. Me and my wife, a month after we met, we had a tiny
that one's
K.
hidden. We wouldn't know that one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then I got hurt in 2018. And I had like 4 or 5 months off. So I'm like, all right, I always wanted to get sleeves. I always waited to make sure I was going to make a living off wrestling before I got it. Cause back in the day, it's not like now, now you can have as much tattoos as you want and do anything in life, which is great. But back in the day, it's like, you can't have too many tattoos. It's going to hinder your work. So I didn't know, until I made sure that I knew I was going to be a wrestler for a living, I waited to get everything. And then, I started getting this the vulture on my arm in 2018 during the break, and just grew from
A lot
there.
of dinosaurs.
Yeah, the dinosaurs came.
Is this a whole dinosaur arm?
Yeah, so this arm is just all
T-Rex,
the animals.
Stegosaurus,
Yes,
Triceratops.
This arm is just all animals that I really love. And before I decided I was going to be a wrestler, the only other interest I had was either being a zoologist or what's the word?
Archaeologist?
Yeah, like Jurassic Park. Like I saw the
Paleontologist?
movies, like digging up. Like I would, after seeing Jurassic Park, I'd go in my backyard and try to dig up dinosaur bones, and I just found so many cats buried in my backyard. So many. And I kept
At
them.
first, did you think, it's a dinosaur?
No, I knew it was clearly a cat. I mean, many cats. So I had a collection. They put them in the box. My mom was like, okay, fine. But yeah, so dinosaur fossils was a passion when I was a kid. And well, dinosaurs in general. But the thing about it is we have a pretty good idea what they look like, but you can't know for sure.
And I feel like in the last decade
They've
or so,
changed, exactly.
Yeah, they're
so we know what
they
their
have
fossils.
feathers.
Yeah, we know what their fossils look like. So I went with that.
And there's people
instead.
that are like, they weren't real.
Yeah, well,
What?
okay. Where the bones come from?
What's the one on your hand mean? Your knuckles?
This one? The knuckles are my grandfather's initials. This is Melvin Steen, which is my dad's father, and Pierre Benoit, which is my mom's father. They both passed away before I made it to WWE, but they were both huge fans of mine. They supported me so much. They loved, like Melvin would take me to WWE shows when I was a kid. And Pierre, he'd watch all my matches at home. And when they passed on the indies, I would have white wrist tape and I'd write their initials on my wrist tape. But then when I got to WWE, I decided I'm probably not going to wear white wrist tape, so I won't be able to put their initials. So I went and got them tattooed on my knuckles because I just kind of need them with me all the time. This one is for my parents. So my mom loves skulls for some reason. She loves skulls. And my dad loves hockey and golf. So I always had this idea of doing the pirate logo where it's like the skull with the swords. But I did a hockey stick and a golf club for my dad and a skull for my mom. And then this one was my son actually drew this one.
What?
Yeah.
That's a great Stegosaurus.
Yeah, and he drew it in like 2 minutes. Like my wife was getting a tattoo and I was just sitting there and then the tattoo artist became available. She's like, if you have something you want to do quick, I can. So I texted my son, hey, drop a Stegosaurus real quick. And like 2 minutes later, he sent me that.
Wow.
And then she drew it. I have my kid's name's my wife's name. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap this up, since you're wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, what's your favorite GNR song?
Man, that's a really tough question. November Rain probably makes me feel like I'll listen to that one probably more than any others, but I you asked me for a favorite. It's terrible. I can't pick.
Depends on the day.
Both my kids were born to Guns N' Roses song. My son was born to Patience and my daughter was born to Sweet Child of Mine. And then I used Better as an entrance theme on the indies, which I really like. It's very hard to pick, man. And I would say every time I go see them live, I probably have a new favorite song when I walk out of that concert just because of what it made me feel in the time, But yeah, I love Guns N' Roses.
Well, thank you for making this happen. Congratulations on everything in your career. 25 years.
Yeah, I know. It's wild.
Man.
Yeah.
I will wrap this up with a question I ask everybody at the end. Gratitude's such a huge part of my life. And I wake up every day, say out loud three things I'm grateful for, because it kind of sets the tone to focus on the things you have rather than what you don't have. And I do it before I go to bed. What are 3 things in your life you're grateful for?
Well, obviously my family, my parents, my wife, my kids, which, there's really no purpose without them. My friends, I have a lot of very good friends that are really like just all like friends, a lot of them too, that I have done this whole journey with, a lot of them, and to have been by their side and have had them by my side for so long and going through all these trials and tribulations with them and seeing where we are now, it's a pretty great feeling. It's very special. And finally, I'm just really thankful for I'm thankful that I've been at the right place at the right time a lot in my career, which has led to me getting to experience some really incredible things, like the match with Steve, or, winning certain championships and this and that. I'm not like, humility is a very important quality for me. I know I'm good at what I do, but I'm not arrogant enough to think that all those opportunities happen because I'm so good. They happen because chance, a lot of it. And I was lucky enough to be at the right place at the right time. And I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.